Hey everyone, this is Sean Elliott with the Grisak Group. We finally have the quarter 4 housing market data in, and so we wanted to share some of that with you today. Thank you for tuning in, and I brought the top dog with me today, our lead agent from 2025, Alice Robinson.
Thank you, Sean.
Hey,
Happy to be here.
thank you for coming. I appreciate it. You had a heck of a year.
Yeah, it was a good one.
It was. It
Yeah,
was.
thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
In this business, it's tough though. You get to celebrate for about 5 seconds, and then
Mm,
it's on to the next.
yep,
So here we are, 2026.
yep.
So anybody that stopped down and watched these quarterly reports before, we'll show you the slides. We'll kind of take you through stuff. It's going to be a pretty quick overview. If you have questions after the fact, obviously give us a call. We can talk about it more in depth, but we just wanted to share just kind of a bird's eye view of what's going on in Dallas-Fort Worth. And so we'll dive right in. So this first one is kind of the brag slide. It's just what the first one that comes up, but this is showing the top brokerages in DFW over the fourth quarter of 2025. And once again, KW's at the top with about 10% of the market, more than double the next broker, which is Coldwell Banker. So I think the proof is in the data. I mean, we've loved KW for a long time. Alice, you just came straight to KW, right?
Yeah.
You weren't with another broker.
Right.
Just the technology, the tools, the training, it's better than anything else out there that I've seen. And the data says it right there. So most people are using KW agents. We hope that continues to be the case. Next one is an overview of really the past 15 years. The thing that I look for here is just the gray bars versus the red bars. And if you look at the very right-hand side, the gray bars are really, really high up. That's showing the number of homes that are available. And the red bars down low are showing what actually sold. And you can see there's a pretty big gap there. So there's a lot of homes out there. Not all of them are selling, obviously. And if you look at this just on the surface, you might think, oh, gosh, the housing market's terrible. It's not. If you look at the red bars over the last 15 years, they're pretty consistent. So like in 2025, we still sold a lot of homes. I mean, how many did you close last year?
Oh gosh.
It was around 20, wasn't it?
Yeah.
More than that?
Yeah.
Which was the most you've ever sold
Mm-hmm.
in a year.
Mm-hmm.
I was around the same. It was around 20. Normally it's 20 to 25. Last year as a team, we sold like 85 homes, which was up from 2024. So homes sell. And honestly, you'll see later in this that we sold more homes in DFW in 2025 than we did in 2024. There's just a lot more homes out there, which means sellers need to be very realistic about the condition of their home, the price they ask for it, and realizing that it can take some time. But the blue line there is one we look at too. That's interest rates. We know over the last couple of years they've risen up to 7, but you can see that blue line coming down. So now they're around 6. We're certainly hoping with some of the things that are set to kick in 2026 and a new Fed chair coming in that will go under 6 and be in the mid to upper 5s. And so that should help open things up a little bit. Because as I'm sure you know, Alice, I mean, anybody that bought or refinanced in 2021, their rate was like a 3.
Yep.
So when rates double up to 7, what's the point in moving?
Right.
And so
They're
now
holding
that a
on to
little
it.
bit of time has gone by and rates are coming back down to a more agreeable level for most people, that should open up the market quite a bit. Time will tell. All right, next one shows months of supply in the fourth quarter of last year. And this is across all of DFW. We'll talk about some counties and some cities as we go through, but really you're looking at all the numbers across the board. And Alice, the way that this gets measured generally isn't just the number of months of inventory. And if there's only like 2 or 3 months inventory, that's pretty much what we call a seller's market.
Yep.
So sellers have the upper hand. But once you get to 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, that's where it's a little bit more balanced, where sellers don't have all the advantage anymore. They have to compromise. Buyers have a lot of choices. So this is just showing by county. And it kind of struck me, that number for Collin County.
I was just going to say the same thing. When you were looking at the slide before, you would think that this would have been more closer to a buyer's market, these numbers.
Yeah, and I thought the same thing when I saw it, because Collin County, if you can't read the numbers there, the inventory number for the last quarter of last year was 3.2 months, which is in the green, which is technically what we call a seller's market. But you also got to consider the last quarter of the year is October, November, December, when a lot of people don't want to be on the market.
Yeah.
And so the number of homes out there is a lot less than it had been previously in the year. So I think that months of inventory comes down a little bit. So it does make some sense when you look behind the numbers. But what I notice here when you compare the gray bar to the red bar, comparing last year to this year, it doesn't matter what county you were in. They were all higher.
Mm-hmm.
All of them went up. But either way, Collin County, there's still, a pretty balanced market overall, which is good. We'll take it.
Yep.
Next one goes into specific cities and their months of inventory. And we can talk about any area of Dallas you want, but most of our business is in Allen, Fairview, Lucas, Parker. So we're just going to kind of look at those. So Allen was at 2.2 months, super low. If you look at Fairview, Lucas, Parker, that was a little bit higher. That's in the yellow. I know it's tough to see.
It is, yeah.
So Fairview, Lucas, Parker was at about 4 months of inventory. So not quite as an aggressive seller's market, but, still not bad.
Yeah.
Yep.
Balanced is good.
Balance is good. And then we're looking at the luxury pricing next. This is months of inventory for homes that are over 700,000. It's hard to believe that's luxury now. It's almost like that's entry level in the areas that we work is a 700,000 plus home. But this one, again, it kind of reinforces everything. I know you see a couple greens there, but they're at 3.9 and 3.8. They're right on that border. So for most of the areas that we work, most of the people we work with that are in a $700,000 home or more valuable, it really is a pretty balanced market. Mm-hmm. And anytime you see red, you got to pay attention to it. So $2 million plus homes, that's in the red right now. There's just a lot of options with fewer buyers, which makes sense. There's not a ton of $2 million, more than I think.
Yeah.
When I started this, I'm like, how many people can really buy a $2 million home?
And now it's
a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Or things are just changing. But that doesn't surprise me either. Those homes always take longer to sell. I mean, there's not as many buyers out there, and there's more and more homes in that price range than there ever has been.
Yep. No doubt. So next one, this is going to show the actual sales in the fourth quarter and how they changed from a year ago. And so Collin County on the surface, if you look at that, mm-hmm. you think Collin County did great in the last quarter. They sold 6% more homes than they did a year ago. But this is why it's so important to really look at this data, because as you go through, you'll see maybe that's not quite the full picture. But in total, Collin County sold quite a few homes during the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. But if you go to the next slide, what do you notice about the price of those homes that sold?
Yep, 11% less.
They were down quite
mm-hmm.
a bit. So were people buying in Collin County during the fourth quarter? Yes. Were they buying expensive homes? Doesn't look like it.
No.
Yeah, the median price was down quite a bit. And this is, again, where I hope that people that hire a real estate agent ask these questions so your agent is looking at this data and not just looking at it on the surface, but looking inside it. Because when you go to the next one and you see the homes that sold during the last quarter, I'm sorry, these went pending, but still it's showing buyer decisions during the last quarter of the year. It's not like prices really dropped. Mm-hmm. It's more, look at the homes that buyers were purchasing. So the price points that had the biggest increase in people actually submitting a contract, they were lower priced homes.
Right.
So people that bought in the area during the fourth quarter or submitted a contract, they typically went after lower priced homes. So when you look at the sales data, of course that median sales price can be down because people bought lower priced homes. That doesn't mean that your $1.5 million home dropped in value by 11%. Mm-hmm. It just means that buyers went after lower priced homes during that particular quarter. That makes sense? Or is that just in my head?
No, I'm following it. I mean, and that's what the data shows.
I mean, I don't know. The numbers can't mean anything other than that. It's just, you gotta be looking specifically at certain data points. Next one, this is looking over the past 6 years, and I don't think this will be a surprise to anybody. This is just the median sales price across the board, all of Dallas over the past 6 years. Excuse me. And back in 2019, early 2020, we saw what is typical for Dallas-Fort Worth. Values grew by 2%, 3%, 4%, but it was pretty steady growth. That's what we're used to seeing. And then in 2020, late 2020, it just exploded, and we knew it had to level out at some point, and that did happen in early 2023. And so you see that leveling out and somewhat of a market correction where prices dropped a little bit. We're all optimistic going into 2026, but that the the very last bar there that shows Q4 of 2025, the prices across the board dropped by about 4%. You know, it is what it is. Does that concern you at all? Or
I was just about to say, when you look at this, it might at first look concerning, but I just think things are getting it leveled out and things are now just balancing and more reasonable. So it's not that it necessarily dropped, it's just that it didn't continue to increase at such a rapid rate.
I agree completely, and it really goes back to the slide, 2 slides ago that we talked about. If lower price homes are the only ones that sell, then of course that median sales price that you're comparing it to is going to look lower. It doesn't mean that values have really dropped.
Right. They're
It's
just
also-
not continuing to take this huge jump. Sorry, Jason, what was that?
It's also worth noting too that some of the bigger builders like Lennar, D.R. Horton, they are focusing really heavily right now on their like Express series and those homes that are the most affordable, because they're just trying to sell as many as possible. D.R. Horton's not doing some of their luxury stuff that they did 10 years ago,
Yeah.
for example. So that can also skew. I mean, it's median, so it corrects for that some, but it still skews it down when that focus is there from the big builders.
Very true. Very true. Good point. Okay, next, obviously, if things have leveled out, we would assume that homes are going to take a little bit longer to sell. This is just showing the change in the median days on market for all the major areas in Dallas. And as you can see, every single one is up. And people ask us all the time, if I list my house today, how long is it going to take? The answer is, I have no idea.
I know, it's so hard to predict, but this is good to show that, just to help up front with what sellers' expectations should be.
Well, people need to know before they get into this process what's ahead of them, right? And we always have the crystal ball questions. We can't tell the future. We don't know. We can look at data that will help us figure out what is likely to happen and how we can market the home to hopefully beat these numbers. But in general, you just got to be prepared. It's a new world. Homes are taking longer to sell in every single county across DFW. So it just depends. I mean, a lot of the homes that we sell, and I think there's a slide later for this, but I mean, it could happen in the first 3 weeks. We certainly still see that, but it could take 4 months. We see that too. There's just no way to really know before you put it out there.
Yeah.
Next one. This is the one that is really important to know going in. The data isn't great. I'm sure sellers don't want to see it, but I think they need to see it for sure. This is really important. This is showing fourth quarter of 24 to fourth quarter of 25, what the seller ended up getting compared to their original list price. And Alice, you were in the business during 2021 when, you put a home on the market, you were getting at least 100% of your asking price, multiple offers first weekend. And so people had that mindset, okay, if I ask $1 million for my home, I'll probably get $1 million. The data now shows that in every county, sellers are getting less and less of what they originally asked. And in Collin County specifically, it was about 92.5%.
Well, I think if you go back to that change in median sales price chart from a couple slides ago, that makes sense because it's just not selling at the same increased rate that it was. It doesn't necessarily mean that the value is less.
Yeah.
It just isn't jumping in value.
Yeah. Yeah. So, this is basically saying, and again, like Jason said, this is median. Anything can happen, right? This is data. It's numbers. It's not complete truth. It just gives us a picture of the truth. So, if you're listing your house for $1 million, what the data says is be prepared. It's probably closing around 925. Now, can we help you beat that? We certainly hope so. And that's our goal. And typically we can, but that's what the data is saying right now. So just be prepared. Next one. I think every seller is really nervous about having to drop price. They think it makes them look desperate or weak. What's your thought on that?
I don't think so. I think it makes you look reasonable, that you're watching the market, you're listening to the market, you're listening to the buyers that are coming in, and you're adjusting accordingly.
Yeah.
I think buyers get excited about it too. They think maybe they're getting a deal.
Yeah.
So I don't see any issue with price reductions. I think it shows that the sellers are being reasonable and watching the market.
I would agree. We're in a world now where sellers are going to have to compromise in one way or another. Buyers have choices now. They're strapped for money, and so they are going to go after the home where they feel like they're getting a good deal or a compromise, or it's a seller that's willing to work with them on things. Because if the data says, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you should probably be selling for $50,000 under what you're asking, and that seller's not willing to budge at all, is that buyer going to be comfortable asking you for repairs or negotiating a contract? Like they're obviously going to see that you're not willing to work with them.
Right.
And so, okay, let's go down the street and get that other house that is willing to work with us. So
Right.
I think price reductions, sellers just need to realize it's happening everywhere now.
Yeah.
If you can't see the data on here, if you look at every county, every single one had more price drops compared to a year ago. And are any of them under 50%? I don't think so.
I don't, no,
So basically,
almost. Yeah.
over half the homes that sold in the fourth quarter of last year had to do at least one price drop.
Yeah.
And in Collin County, that was nearly 70%. So 7 out of 10 homes had to do a price drop before they got the job done. It's just the environment we're living in. Now, does that mean that you should do price drops willy-nilly?
No.
No.
No, it needs to be intentional, and you need to look at what's going on around you.
Mm-hmm.
And not just drop it to jump to the front of the line again, but it needs to make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a strategy to everything. I've seen so many listings before where I saw the price drop every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Every 2 weeks, there was a price drop. And so what does that tell me as a buyer's agent? Let's wait 2 more weeks.
2 more weeks.
I know
see
the
what
price
happens
is coming
again.
down.
Mm-hmm.
So don't do that. Like there has to be strategy involved. And then we see this, and you and I have talked about this a lot. It drives me crazy when I see like a $1 price drop just so it feeds into
Yes.
people's search engines. And
Yes.
it's like, you look at it and you're like, that's not even serious. Like we see what you're doing.
And the buyers do too.
Yeah,
And they're
exactly.
not dumb.
They're not going to be like, woo, all
Yeah,
right, sounds
they
good,
know what
price
you're
drop.
doing,
It's like,
yes.
no, wait a minute. Okay. So
Now, some conversations I have when I do a price drop are with the seller then says, well, we're not going to negotiate as much. We're not going to have as much room to give concessions or to put towards repairs. So every situation is different when it comes to that. Those are just conversations to be prepared for.
Well, that's why we need to know this data so we
yeah.
can have those conversations. Because if we have a seller that literally they have to get a certain amount out of the home in order for this to make sense, if we see that that's not very likely, then maybe they need to stay there for another year.
Yeah.
Like anybody that calls us, obviously we want to help you sell your home. We
Right.
want to help you accomplish your goal. But if literally the numbers aren't there and it makes more sense for you to stay in your house for another year or two and you can do that, then maybe that's what you want to do. But you're not going to know that unless you know what you're dealing
Know
with.
your numbers. Yep. Every situation's different too.
Speaking of days on market and price reductions, this one is from the luxury data. So this is just $700,000 and plus homes. But this just shows how long it took to sell a home if you had to do a price reduction, which was most, or if you didn't. And so as you can see, the difference is pretty vast.
Yeah.
If you didn't have to do a price reduction, meaning the home was in great condition, it was priced very aggressively against the competitors, those homes still sold in 3 weeks,
Yep.
a month. So people out there that are buying homes, they can see that value. They're like, man, that is a cool home, and it is the same price as those 3 other homes I saw that aren't very cool. Let's go ahead and jump on that before we lose it.
Yeah.
And if you weren't that home, if you were the overpriced home or it wasn't in a good condition, the amount of time it took to get that deal done is massively different. It's 3-4 months. And every day that you're on market, every week that you're on market, you're losing money. People are thinking something's wrong with it. You know, eventually they're going to drop their price. You're putting yourself in a bad position. So we tell sellers all the time, you need to really weigh your motivation here. Do you want this done in 30 days? Then we need to take this pricing strategy. If you're okay waiting it out and testing the high side, that's fine. Just be prepared. Like the data says it's going to take a while.
Well, and that gap right there in the situations where it's already a vacant home, the carrying cost that you have is
That too.
Yeah, you're gonna net probably more pricing it correct from the beginning than testing the high pricing strategy and waiting it out.
Yeah, and people will, at least the thought that my mind goes to, okay, are there any homes out there that sit there for 100 days and still get their full asking price? I mean, will it happen occasionally? Sure, anything is possible.
There's
but
always an outlier.
Is it likely for that to happen? No, data doesn't
Nope.
say that. Nope.
No.
If you're on market for months and months, it's almost impossible to get what you're asking. So something to keep in mind. Next. So as you were mentioning earlier, Even when sellers get a contract, they're still having to negotiate repairs and some credits to help buy down their interest rate and other closing costs. And this just shows the amount, or I'm sorry, the number of transactions where the seller actually had to do that, where the buyer said, hey, if you don't give me $3,500 for some repairs, I'm out. And so I think this is the case of this one. Every red bar is higher. Oh, no, Rockwall went down a little bit. So Rockwall County was a little bit lower than last year, but every other major county, the number of times that a seller had to give a concession went up.
Mm-hmm.
So in Collin County, it was about 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
Now, how much did that credit look like? Can obviously vary, but in Collin County during the fourth quarter, the median amount that a seller gave a buyer to close the deal was about $9,000.
Mm-hmm.
That seems high to me.
Well, especially if this is based off median sales price.
Well, you have to realize that a lot of those are new builds, and every new build these days has like rate buy downs, $10,000 credit, all of that. So those are skewing the data because those are like 30,000 in concessions on every new build these days.
Jason, our new build guy.
Yeah, I'm just
in with
I,
all the new.
it does impact it. So that's the
For
problem.
those of you that
Yeah,
don't
it
know,
does.
Jason recently bought his first home, which is a new build. So he's been in the weeds
Yeah,
for this for the
yeah,
past
I-
6 months.
I've done a couple other new builds
Doing
recently,
market
so-
research for us. Thank you,
Yes.
Jason.
That's definitely true. I mean,
Yeah. 9,000 seems high.
it does.
Yeah.
What he's saying is true because builders are throwing a lot of incentives out there and they're just handing away cash to unload inventory. But it still seems high to me. Like most of the deal, and we sell a lot of very expensive homes,
Mhm.
but I mean, at most of my sellers will offer, 3, 4K to
Yeah.
go ahead and do something.
they're on $1 million homes.
It's usually not $9,000.
Right.
Yeah,
Mm,
no, it
yeah.
is weird for a resale.
I wonder where this is coming from.
Failed listings. So these are the homes that were on the market and just job didn't get done. Nobody would buy it at that price. And on this one as well, the red bars are bigger in every single county. So the number of homes that failed to sell during the fourth quarter went up across the board in 2025. And in Collin, that number was about 40%. So 4 out of 10 homes that were on the market in Collin County just didn't get the job done. Now, some of those certainly could have said, hey, it's November 20th.
Yep.
I don't want to be on the market for Thanksgiving and Christmas, so let's just go ahead and pull it. That certainly happened, so we'll see that number come down, but that's what it is.
Yep.
Okay, change in the numbers that were sold by city, and we're not going to look at everything. We'll look at Allen, Fairview, Lucas, Parker. So Allen is the top one. Allen had a good fourth quarter, sorry. 20% more sales than the year before.
Sorry, I was on the wrong slide for a second. So I'm getting caught up. Allen.
Yeah,
Oh,
Allen's
yeah.
at the very
Okay.
top. They had a
Yeah.
big jump. So, and that's just in numbers. So that's not pricing. That's not what value the home was. That's just the number of sales. So Allen had a lot more sales Q4 than it did a year before. Fairview Lucas Parker was down
Mm-hmm.
27%.
Mm-hmm.
So again, before we just jump into, Allen's doing great and Fairview Lucas Parker doing terrible, let's look at some pricing.
Yep.
So sales price in the fourth quarter, Allen did go up 2%. So even though they sold 20% more homes,
Yeah.
prices didn't go up a lot during the last quarter. Fairview Lucas Parker, even though they sold 27% fewer homes, the prices actually went up for the ones that sold. The prices, median price was up 4.5%. So do people still want to get into Fairview Lucas Parker? Certainly looks like it.
Yeah.
Prices went up compared to a year ago, even though fewer homes sold.
Well, that might be why.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to, are people buying lower price homes, the higher price homes? You just got to look at all that data. This one I found interesting. The next one, change in the median amount of time to sell. Only one specific area got faster.
Yeah.
Which was Fairview Lucas Parker.
Okay.
Weird.
Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know. Whenever I look at this, it's like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Wait a minute. Let me figure out why that is that way, because that seems a little bit confusing. But yeah, the homes that sold in Fairview Lucas Parker, they moved pretty quickly during the fourth quarter and for good prices. So could that mean that sellers have now had a year and a half to kind of get used to the new normal? And those sellers in Fairview Lucas Parker were like, man, I need to get this done before December 31st. I've got to move to my new place to get the kids in school, whatever. Let's go ahead and price it right. Let's not
Yeah.
shoot for that big number. That could be it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be a part of it.
Salina, interestingly, up significantly,
Oh yeah, 57. Wow.
like a lot. It's
I think that's
interesting.
just inventory. I mean,
I
that
think
Salina's been blown up.
I think some of that is. I think some of it too is the traffic is starting to get really bad out there.
I was going to say,
So I
because
think
Prosper's high too, right there
Yeah.
at 39.
Yeah.
So you might, yeah,
I
that's
think it
probably
might be rough out there for a little bit until they figure out all the roads.
Yep, true. Next is just showing the failed listings by city. Pretty consistent. Allen was at about 40%. Fairview Lucas Parker was about 48%. So again, it was fourth quarter. A lot of homes just pulled off the market because they didn't want to be out there for the holidays.
Yeah.
Pending listings for luxury properties, and we're getting there, guys, almost to the end. Down from 700 up to 1.5 million, but up for the 2 million or for the 1.5 million up properties. So I don't know if that's optimism heading into 2026 or if, the luxury buyers that we've seen for years, they just don't care about mortgage rates. And we'll see in a second, the number of cash transactions for really expensive homes is still pretty high.
Yeah.
But the homes in DFW that were priced over 1.5 million, a lot of those went under contract
Yeah.
over Q4. So we'll see where those all close with pricing. Closed sales for luxury. The only one that was really up, and it was just a little bit, was the 2 million plus. Everything else was pretty level or down a little bit from last year. And then failed listings for the expensive ones, a little bit higher than what we saw on the other slides. But again, they're more expensive homes. It's a smaller buyer pool.
Right.
But then this one, it always surprises me that there are so many people just with a couple $1 million laying around. But this is cash transactions. So, people ask it when we go into an expensive home, people ask, what's the chances of this being a cash transaction? You never know. But the data says if you're, over 1.5 million, it's probably 30 to 40% chance.
Mm-hmm.
They're just, those people don't care about rates. The markets have been good and the financial markets have been good. So a lot of people choose to put money into property, and that's what we've seen. It did go down from the year prior, but still, if you got a $2 million home, the chances are 40% or a little bit better that your buyer's bringing cash.
Okay. I want to make sure I'm reading this chart right. So
Yeah.
this isn't the change in the number of cash transactions. This is how many at that price point were cash transactions.
The yellow bar shows Q4 25, how many were cash transactions.
Okay.
And
So
they-
41.6 over
Mhm.
2 million were cash transactions. Okay.
Seems
Just
like a
making
lot.
sure I'm reading
But
that. Yeah.
it's a little bit down from last year, but it's still, to me, that's a big number.
Yeah.
A lot of people just bringing $2 million to the table.
If you're looking at that price point, you might
Yeah.
have the cash.
Yep, exactly. 2 more. So this one we've been tracking because it was weird this year. The red line is showing the median price for resale homes, and the gray bar is showing the median sales price for new construction.
Mm.
And as you can see, if you go back to 2018, new homes have always sold for more
Yeah.
than resale homes, which would make sense. If you're
Mhm.
buying a new product with new technology, new materials, it's going to, and at today's cost for actually building the house, it's going to make sense. It's more expensive. But in 2025, it's the first time over the life of this chart that we've seen it flip-flop, where buying a resale home in most cases was actually more expensive than buying a new home, which goes back to a lot of the things that Jason said earlier. But we saw that start to level out near the end of the year, and the numbers are almost identical right now to finish 2025. So if you're looking for a new home versus a resale home, there are certainly communities and builders that are giving great prices
Yeah.
to help, people that are looking for those entry-level homes. But you can get a resale for around the same price in most instances, and so I always found that one interesting.
Well, and sometimes in a master planned community, and I'm actually going through this right now with the listing that I have out in Paloma Creek, which is a huge community out in Little Elm.
Mhm.
There are still new builds coming. So you're competing with the new builds when you're selling a pre-existing home. So you really zhuzh up the features that your home has that a new build wouldn't.
Yeah.
So new
Yeah.
builds probably won't have a pool, mine has paid off solar panels,
Yeah.
and it's including fridge, washer, dryer. And so you really have to point that stuff out because
Mhm.
the new builds won't. I mean, sometimes they throw in window treatments and things
Yeah.
like that. So But it can be tough. I'm glad that that's leveling out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're
No
buying
doubt.
in like a tract home in one of these newer communities, you're probably like 5 years away from it making sense to resell just because the builders are so competitive out there.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard to even go against them. The other thing too is this is all areas. So like you could be cross shopping at 400,000, a 30-year-old home in Allen versus a brand new home in Princeton. It's not
Right.
necessarily the same area. So you're losing
100%.
out on
Yeah.
location to get the new home or vice versa.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
No doubt. No doubt. All right. And then the last one is just, it's just a picture of the last 3 years for total sales. And I think when people think about the market and they hear in the headlines that things aren't as good as they were, you'd expect to see the number of sales going down, but it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
Black is 2023, gray is 2024, and red is 2025. And every single one has been on a very steady trajectory. Each one has gone up each year just by a little bit, which is what we'd expect. So to have the mindset that people aren't out there buying, the housing market's in trouble, it's just not true. People are still buying at a very similar rate that they have the last couple of years. In fact, it's going up a little bit, and everything I've read expects that the numbers this year are going to be the same, probably go up a little bit again.
It's just that we have more inventory, so that's why it feels that way.
Yeah, but that's normal, and that's what we need. I mean, that's what the housing market should be. We should not have what we had in 2021. That's not healthy. It's not sustainable. So to see this type of data, that type of trend, to me, makes me feel very good about Dallas-Fort Worth, Collin County, and the housing market that we have laying ahead.
Absolutely, 100%. I agree.
Yep.
Yeah.
So time will tell, but there you go. There's the data. Hope that helped. Thank you guys for stopping in. And as we said at the beginning, if you're thinking of buying or selling this year and you want to dive into a certain area or a certain discussion about, your goals and what needs to be done to help you guys achieve it, we'd be happy to talk to you. So everybody have a good February and hope that we get to talk soon.